Now let us move on to the understanding of the total cost, and let us move on to understanding of the cost curves actually, where we be understanding how the various cost curve are going to behave. Now let me first talk about total cost. The total cost is equal to fixed cost plus the variable cost. Now the classical examples of the fixed costs can be the investments into the machinery, or the investment into the land, or investment into the building, etc. Now the variable cost in itself can be the wages that we pay to the labor, the salaries that is paid to the staff, or the electricity bills, etc. So all of these are the examples of the variable cost. Now if we talk about these costs, now as if I increase as per the if I take the output on the x-axis, and I take the total fixed cost on the y-axis, so I will get a straight line curve like this. Now this means that whatever the output, whatever output I'm going to produce, the total fixed cost is going to remain constant. However, the total fixed cost is going to decrease per unit. That we'll talk in the when we talk about the marginal curves. But so far we are just talking about we are talking about the total fixed cost in totality. Now, what about the variable cost? Say, for example, talking about the output. I'm taking the output on the x-axis, and I'm taking the total variable cost on the y-axis. So, as the amount of the output increases, the total variable cost is also going to increase. So, the amount of the variable cost that I'm going to invest into the business, it's going to increase as I increase the output. Now, I have also talked about the three things, that is the increasing returns to scale in the previous lecture. We have talked about the decreasing returns to scale, and we have talked about the constant returns to scale. Now let us analyze these costs. How does this total cost actually behave in these typical scenarios when we have the increasing returns, decreasing returns, and the constant returns to scale, and how the actual total cost is going to behave in these three scenarios when we actually have the increasing returns to scale, the decreasing returns to scale, and the constant returns to scale. Later on we will be discussing about how these cost curves are going to behave per unit of the production, where we will be talking about the marginal cost curves. Now let me first talk about the constant returns to scale. Now in case of the constant returns to scale, if I take the output on the x-axis and I'm going to take the total cost on the y-axis, so the total cost is going to behave like this, which means that the amount of the inputs that I am giving into the production is giving me the same amount of the output. For every additional amount of the input into the production, I am getting the same amount of the output. So if I increase the input by 1 unit, I am going to get the 1 unit increase in the output. Now I will talk about the second case, that is the increasing returns to scale. Now taking the again the output on the x-axis, and I will take a total cost on the y-axis. The in this case, in the case of the increasing returns to scale, I have to employ increasing returns to scale means that the output increases in the greater proportion as compared to the inputs, which means that the costs that are required for the production of the outputs will be lower because of the employment of the lower factors of the production. So in this case, the graph will be something like this. So this is going to be my total cost curve increase of the increasing returns to scale, which shows that as I increase the output, the total costs are going to get reduced. Now I will talk about the decreasing returns to scale. Now in case of the decreasing returns to scale, what essentially happens, I actually the amount of the factors that I give as an input into the production are produce less amount of the output, which means that the output that is produced is less as compared to the inputs that are put into the production. So in this case, the costs are going to increase as I increase the output. So somehow like this, because I am giving more output, more inputs, and getting the lesser amount of the outputs, so the total costs are going to increase. Now this is an opposite case in case of the increasing returns, where the costs are going to decrease as I increase the output, because the output because the output that I'm getting out of the production is more as compared to the employment of the factors of production. Now let me talk about the situation where we have the continuous pattern of the increasing and decreasing returns of scale. Taking the output on the x-axis and the total cost on the y-axis, I will get a curve like this. Now in this case, I have two types of the curves. The one curve is showing the increasing returns of the scale, the another curve is showing the decreasing of the returns of scale. Now this is a situation in which the firm faces both the increasing and decreasing returns to scale. Now this is a scenario where a firm may require a particular optimal level of the capacity. Say for example, a firm manages its outputs, inputs, and up to a particular scale, and beyond a scale, the inputs become unmanageable for a firm, and in this scenario, the output that these inputs are going to produce, they decrease over a period of time. So what actually happens, that over a period of time, the firm is going to produce the decreasing returns of the scale. So now the typical scenario in this case is going to be because this increasing returns to scale, this concave part over here, says that the firm is efficiently utilizing its inputs. However, after some period of time of the employment of certain factors of the production, now it becomes impossible, or it becomes difficult for the firm to manage these inputs, and because of this mismanagement of the inputs, what is happening, the decreasing returns of the scale is operating, and because of that, the total cost of the firm is increasing. So this concave part over here simply represents the increasing returns to scale, and this part over here represents the decreasing returns to scale. Now if I talk about the total cost curve, it is somehow going to behave in this fashion, which means that over a period of time, the inputs, a certain amount of the inputs become difficult for a firm to manage because of some age factor or because of the increase in the scale of the business, so the firm is going to produce some decreasing returns to scale.